What is up, NFL fans, and welcome back to the podcast where we preview the upcoming slate of games for your viewing pleasure. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Wesley Coleman, and we are getting you ready for the playoffs, the wild card round. Wesley, here we are. What's up, man?
Not much. This is good. This is exciting. I think a lot of the games worked out in a pretty fun way.
Yeah, nothing fun about the Steelers finish to the season. And I know that you're thinking that as you say that, but still, it's fine. It's fine. They're in the playoffs. All is well. Not really. But what we're going to do on this podcast is we are going to go game by day. So the games start on Saturday, and they're going to go all the way until Monday. I just got to say this off the top. I hate that they do a Monday night playoff game. I understand why, but I just feel like it really puts the team that wins that game at a disadvantage next week in the divisional round. You agree or disagree?
No, I'm not a fan of it. It's we don't need any excuses of why the best team's not going to win any game here, and I am not a fan of it. Again, we both understand why they do it, but yeah, I'm not a fan. I did want to also just say the Seattle Seahawks won 10 games and didn't make the playoffs. They are the 23rd 10-win team to not make the playoffs since 1978. Just I think they deserve a shout out for winning 10 games and not making the playoffs because 23 teams since 1978 is not a lot.
No, and when you think about the Seahawks, at one point they were vying for the NFC West crown, and then they just kind of fell off there in the second half. Similar to the Cardinals, at one point that was a highly contested conference race or division race, I should say, and then the Rams end up winning it. But let's go to the breakdowns. On Saturday, it's an all AFC slate of games starting at 4:30 Eastern time. The Chargers go to the Texans. So this is an interesting game. The Texans win the AFC South, hence why they're hosting this playoff game. The Chargers finished 11-6. The Texans finished the season 10-7. The Chargers are actually giving points to the Texans on the road. They're giving 2.5 points. Let's talk about this game, what your thoughts are, and then we'll give our predictions. What do you think about this one, Wesley?
I mean, it's the Texans haven't been what anybody expected. Having said that, they were in a terrible division and they won it and they got 10 wins. We'll see of them at home. Can CJ Stroud get right? I think the team hasn't been healthy enough. But I mean, I think they're a good team and we'll see. They've got a good coaching staff. We'll see what kind of plan they can put together against this Chargers defense, which hasn't been the stout defense that it was at the start of the year or through the middle of the season. The end of the year, they were susceptible to giving up some points.
The Chargers are for me, they're a tough nut to crack based on the fact they've dealt with some injuries at key positions. Whether you talk about, J.K. Dobbins had a stint on IR. Justin Herbert's ankle has been an issue for a lot of the season. He seems to be healthy now. The Texans can say the same thing at the wide receiver position. You lose Nico Collins with a hamstring injury for a significant portion of the year. Tank Dell is done again with another knee injury, which was tough to watch in Kansas City. Joe Mixon got banged up early in the season, and he's back. This is a tough game to predict, in my opinion. A lot of people think that the Chargers are going to roll. I think that being at home in the playoffs matters. But I don't know. This betting line is really odd, too, that the Chargers are giving 2.5. What do you think about that?
Well, just talking about their running back thing. So I think J.K. Dobbins kind of tweaked his knee. He came back in the game and all, but the Chargers signed Ezekiel Elliott this week.
Oh my gosh, did they? How did I miss that?
And added him to their playoff roster. So
oh my gosh.
That if something's wrong with Dobbins and Ezekiel Elliott has to get anything close to significant carries, that's going to change that game drastically.
Yeah, I mean if J.K. Dobbins is healthy, I love the Chargers offense, but if he's not, that's rough. That's rough. Yeah. And this is a Texans defense that can get after the quarterback. They are one of the top 5 I think maybe top 3 finished off the check in terms of total team sacks this season, with Danielle Hunter kind of leading the way. What do you think? What's your prediction for this game?
I go back and forth on it. Honestly, that running back health kind of sticks in my head of wondering how it's actually going to play out. I would say that I think that at least at this point, Justin Herbert is playing as the better quarterback than CJ Stroud right now.
Right.
If and you just have to think that probably continues. And so I think that would end up putting the Chargers over the top to actually win this game. Is CJ Stroud capable of getting it back together? Yeah, but he just hasn't shown that this year. I'm sure
Sure.
there's some sort of injury that we don't know about that he's dealing with. He just hasn't looked right. Um, and so I would think that the Chargers are going to probably hold and win this.
That's my pick as well. I think the Chargers win. I think they cover the 2.5 points as well. The total on this game is low, 42.5. We'll see what happens. I could see the over hitting there, and I could also see the Chargers covering that 2.5 point spread.
And these two teams did not play each other this season either. So just kind of one of those things that add in. The one that sticks in my head is just the Chargers giving up 27 points to the Broncos and 40 points to the Bucks, nearing the end of the
Yeah.
season, in the middle of December. So that's just the one that kind of.
Yeah. Well, your assessment that they're not the same defense at the beginning of the season is 100% spot on. 100%. So let's go to the second game, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. The Steelers go to Baltimore. This is the second time they've played there in 4 games. And the last game did not turn out well. They got doubled up 34-17. However, the Steelers have had the Ravens number as of recent history, not counting the last game. What's crazy to me is not that everyone's going to predict the Ravens to win, because if you're a smart football fan and you've watched the way the last 4 games have gone for Pittsburgh, you're going to take the Ravens to win. But this line
It's
is
crazy.
incredible that the Ravens are spotting 10 with a total of only 43.5. So not only do they think points are going to be at a premium, but they think all those points are going to be scored by the Ravens and not the Steelers. This is really interesting to me. The Steelers finished 10-7. Like I said, a 4-game losing streak. The Ravens 5-game winning streak to finish 12-5 and to win the AFC North. There's a million different ways we could look at this one, Wesley. What do you think?
Well, I think, again, the 10-point spread's pretty crazy. I'm guessing that's going to be fueled over just the way that the Steelers have ended, but then also all the Lamar Jackson hype
Sure.
that's going on for the MVP. Normally Vegas isn't that affected by this. I mean, it's a huge spread. But I mean, you watch more Steelers than I do. It would be hard to pick them against. I mean, even if it worked out great for y'all and y'all went to Houston, I mean, you wouldn't go in there with a lot of confidence, even though Houston
No,
hadn't looked great. I mean,
no.
the Steelers just haven't looked like a team that's going to beat another playoff team, right now. And it's just, I mean, a big fall off from what they were in the middle of the season and where they were headed.
This is going to sound stupid, and it is stupid, but I'm going to say it anyways. That you talk about the Houston matchup. There was something that I didn't like about that. You know, that they went there last year, the Steelers did, and they got their doors blown off in week 4 by rookie CJ Stroud. And I was like, you know what? Sometimes it the person you know best might be the best opportunity for you to maybe sneak a win out. And so they know the Ravens well. And I think they're comfortable playing the Ravens. I think they're comfortable playing in Baltimore. Does that mean they're going to win? No, it doesn't mean they're going to win, but it does mean that the Steelers know what they're getting themselves into. I don't think there's going to be an element of surprise in this game, but I will say this. If you follow the Steelers and Ravens going all the way back to the Roethlisberger Flacco era, weird stuff happens in these football games. I mean, really weird stuff. It's these one-off plays that completely turn the tide with momentum. It just is going to come down to which team can protect the ball and which team is going to have the costly turnover. So go back to the last game in Baltimore. Russell Wilson fumbles the ball at the 4-yard line. That completely turned the tide. And then to make matters worse, he throws a pick 6 later in the game, and that ices the game with Marlon Humphrey taunting his way into the end zone, which is fine. You can do that. These things happen in this game, and Lamar Jackson has been had by this Steelers defense in the past. Do I think the Steelers are going to win this game? No, I don't think the Steelers are going to win this game. Do I think the Steelers are going to get beat by 10 points? I don't think the Steelers are going to get beat by 10 points. And when you look at the weather forecast, they're calling for snow in Baltimore on Saturday. Could get pretty dicey. I think that's going to make the total go down. It's 43.5 right now. I would take the under, but I don't think the Steelers are going to lose by 10. That's just a gut feeling.
Yeah, I think that most people, not you, but most people would not remember that with 5 minutes left in the third quarter, this was a tie game. The first time they played, it was 17-17.
Yeah.
And up until that point, the Ravens had the breaks. Bouncing balls had gone their way. There was a few different things that just, and I'm not meaning like bad penalties or anything, like just the ball bounced a couple of different ways, that wasn't in the Steelers' favor. And so that was a very close game until the end, and it kind of got out of hand. I think it's really going to come down to the Steelers front line, and are they going to be able to contain Lamar Jackson, be able to get pressure on him while keeping him contained in the pocket. I mean, there's a fine line of staying in your run lane, and the Steelers do have a defensive line that doesn't play selfish and just try to get themselves to the quarterback. They stay in their lanes and they do that. This thing with the Steelers right now for me is their best running back looks old and isn't good to me. And they're not giving Jalen Warren enough carries, and George Pickens is a knucklehead.
Yes.
He's getting into some unique air for me of watching some of those wide receivers that just are just going to do something to hurt the team in every game or in every important game. And the way he disappeared in the last game was crazy, and him throwing little tantrums and all that. Like, I don't know. He's a problem, and I get that the Steelers have been trying to get what they thought was a second wide receiver, another wide receiver, but I think you got to get one, and you got to get somebody to replace him, because I don't know Mike Tomlin. He seems like a guy that Mike Tomlin would throw off the team in the middle of the week. I guess you don't have that choice because you need somebody to try to maybe catch the ball, but he just doesn't seem like a Mike Tomlin guy to me.
Let's also something else, because you bring up some interesting facets of this game. The Ravens are likely to be without Zay Flowers. He has a knee injury, and although John Harbaugh is obviously saying everything he should, maybe he'll play. We'll see. Everyone's suggesting he's out until the divisional round if they get there. So now all of a sudden, that's one less weapon the Steelers have to worry about. And I'm going to say this: in the playoffs, if you had to go down, how do you want to lose if you're going to lose this game? Do you want Derrick Henry to go off for over 100 like he did the last time he played, and the Ravens rush for over 200? Or do you want to force Lamar Jackson to try and beat you with his arm? You're going to take Lamar Jackson from the pocket. That's your best chance to win. Can the Steelers stop the running game? We shall see. So you're picking the Ravens. You pick them to cover, though?
Ooh, it's rough. No, I don't think they cover.
I don't either. Okay. Let's go to Sunday's slate of games. This is where we get a little NFC action, but we start off at 1 o'clock with Broncos at Bills. Believe it or not, I would think that, the Broncos-Bills game would have the largest spread. No, the Steelers-Ravens is the largest spread of 10 points. The Broncos are getting 8.5 points as they go to Orchard Park to play Buffalo. Broncos get in by beating the Chiefs JV squad. They're 10-7. The Bills are 13-4, the number 2 seed. Wesley, what do you think about this game?
Again, two teams that did not play each other this year. So we get to see that matchup. With the Broncos defense coupled with what I assume is going to not be awesome weather, because I think they're talking about 32 degrees at game time, but that's going to feel like, I don't know, probably 20 or 24 or something like that. I think that's a crazy spread. Again, and Bo Nix, rookie and all that stuff, but he's not the same quarterback he was in the middle of the season, and he doesn't turn the ball over. So without turnovers, I think this game stays lower scoring and closer than that. The 8.5, I think, is crazy. But this is a game the Bills need to actually show something.
Yeah. I think they are going to show something. And I think that they got to rest some players in week 18. Josh Allen didn't play a full game. And I know your buddy Sean Payton is going to have them ready to go, but I don't think they're ready for this. I think the Denver defense, to me, and I'm not looking at week 18 with Carson Wentz at quarterback. Like, I'm not even talking about that. That defense has not been as good down the stretch as they were to start the season. Very similar to the Chargers that we talked about earlier. I think the Bills win, and I think the Bills cover. It's just a gut reaction. I think that Denver might keep it close early, but I think that down the stretch, Buffalo's going to have way too much firepower. The experience of Josh Allen is just going to be too much. And Bo Nix, I think, is going to have a great career, and he's going to learn a lot by getting into the postseason as a rookie. But I like the Bills, and I like them to cover the 8.5 points at home, because I think that they're gearing up for some really big games coming up in the coming weeks.
Saw a stat today that the Bills with Josh Allen playing have scored 3 points per possession, and they're the only team in NFL history to do that without a 1,000-yard receiver, 1,000-yard rusher. That's the stat that is what, if we're talking about MVP, that's the one that makes Josh Allen sound more valuable than everybody else, because Derek Allen is who
you going for here?
The Ravens running back
Oh, Derrick Henry.
Derrick
There you
Henry.
go.
Derrick Henry is incredible. Zay Flowers has been incredible. Isaiah Likely has been a great tight end. Pairing with Mark Andrews. Um, Josh Allen's surrounded by a bunch of okay people.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, he picked up Amari Cooper before the trade deadline, but it's not like he's lighting the world on fire. He's not that guy. They don't have that marquee receiver anymore.
Yep.
The MVP discussion is going to be really interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see which way that goes. But you're taking the Bills, but are you taking them not to cover the 8.5? You think the Broncos keep it close?
I think it stays close. I think Bills score at the end to cover.
Okay, well, backdoor cover. I like it. Let's go to the next game, 4:30 p.m. The Packers go to the Eagles. This is a rematch of the game in Brazil. I don't think we can really go back and look at that game, considering it wasn't even on U.S. soil, to somehow draw any conclusions to where these two teams are heading into the playoffs. Jordan Love's banged up. They just lost Christian Watson for the year with the torn ACL and other structural damage. His 2025 is now in jeopardy. And the Eagles are resting guys. Saquon Barkley, they followed your advice. They said don't even let him practice, so he didn't get the record. But they should be ready to go. The Packers finish 11-6. The Eagles 14-3. I just see this as two teams trending in different directions. The spread is Philadelphia. I'm shocked this is not higher. Philadelphia's giving just 4.5 points. To me, it's take the Eagles, giving the points. I like them big time. What do you think?
I just think that the team, I think the Packers have played the harder schedule here at the end. And I mean, they played games against the Vikings, the Seahawks that won 10 games. They played the Lions. I don't know. I think it'll stay closer than that. And I'm also not a believer in the Eagles. I think Saquon Barkley is incredible. I think he's the best running back in football when healthy. And I think Jalen Hurts is Justin Fields.
Yes,
and
you said that.
this is a playoff game, and it's gonna come down to a play from the quarterback at some point, unless Saquon. I mean, if you're betting on Saquon to have 200 yards, yeah, I mean that puts the game out of reach. It's a playoff game. If the Packers, who have a good defense, can focus on Saquon and make this a Jalen Hurts game, I think that they have a chance to win.
Jalen Hurts, the last I saw, has not cleared the NFL's concussion protocol.
And
that's
well, I mean, I'm sorry. If Kenny Pickett's playing, never mind.
Oh, yeah, well, this is
Eagles all the
way. Yeah. Do you see? You did not just say Eagles all the way. I don't think.
Oh, is that?
I think you meant Packers all the way. But I mean, seriously, the concussion protocol thing that should alarm Eagles fans. And he got injured before Week 18. That means that he still has reoccurring symptoms of the head injury. If he doesn't get at least back to some type of normalcy and is able to work his way back, they could be without Jalen Hurts. And maybe that's why the spread is 4.5. And if he does clear the protocol, that'll change. But that's a big issue right now for the Eagles.
I know that still morning of January 7th, there's still people significantly wired in saying it actually is a massive deal and there's a chance of him not playing.
Wow. Hey, we'll see. We'll see. And it does change my pick. If Kenny Pickett is starting against Green Bay, unless Jordan Love's injury is significant, which I've heard is not, then I would probably take Green Bay in an upset, at least getting points. But we'll see. We'll see. That's going to be something to keep your eye on for sure. Like you said, we were recording this on Tuesday the 7th, so we still have some time.
The Packers also lost Christian Watson for the year.
Yeah, with the ACL.
Which, I mean, kind of the depth of their wide receiver group has been a big deal for them. But I am taking the Packers in this game.
Okay. And Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, two good backs. If you like running the ball, you might see a good game there in Philadelphia. Let's go to the nightcap, Sunday night, 8:00. I think this is, if there's a sneaky good playoff game, I think this is it. It's Washington at Tampa Bay. The Commanders finished 12-5. Jaden Daniels rookie year. He's on his way to rookie offensive player of the year. And then you have the Tampa Bay Bucks, who finished 10-7. Mike Evans, all he does is have 1,000-yard receiving seasons. Baker Mayfield, he's a roller coaster, always has been, always will be. This spread is Tampa Bay's giving the standard home field 3 points. What do you think about this one?
Oh, I mean, I'm taking Washington in this game. I don't think Tampa Bay they haven't been able to run the ball the way that they were earlier in the year. And kind of Mike Evans being the one big receiving threat for them. I think it's making them where it gets to the playoffs and you can really hone in on them. I think it's going to be tough for them to score points and move the ball downfield.
They're going to have to run the ball because the Commanders' offense does like to, Jaden Daniels seems a little bit more healthy than he was earlier in the season when he was dealing with that rib injury. I know that that's probably not 100% healed, but still, he's running the ball a little bit more effectively. We know that he does have weapons, and I think that this is a game, shockingly, and I know this because I play Terry McLaurin often in my FanDuel lineup. He has games where he just kind of like disappears. They're going to need a big game out of him. Like they're going to need him to step up because really they don't have notable names in the receiving core unless you count Zach Ertz, which I don't. So I like the Commanders here, especially getting points. But I think this, the total's 50.5. This one might be one that I say take the over.
The over?
Yeah. Yeah. This might be a high scoring one.
Well, and I'll combat the receiving core thing. The person that's been forgotten about that just came off of IR is Austin Eckler, who is
True.
going to receive the ball plenty, I think, in this game.
That's
I
fair.
think you see a pretty big game from Austin Eckler. I think he could, put up some pretty good yardage mixed between run and catch and end up being the big difference maker in this game.
Yeah.
The Commanders have been all year ugly and up games. They've had close games. They're on a 5-game win streak, but their last 4 games, they've won by a combined 14 points. It's been close for them. That's what they've done, is stayed close with ugly games. So I'm not sure if I definitely would take the points no matter what, but I do think the Washington ends up winning outright.
All right. I'm going to take the Commanders as well. I think it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a fun game to watch. And I think this one could come down to the end, but I'll take the Commanders as well as a road team. Let's go to Monday night. We talked about how we hate Monday nights in the playoffs, but nonetheless, the Minnesota Vikings are coming off that really tough loss to the Detroit Lions in the most significant regular season game in recent history, if not NFL history. They are now the 5 seed, and they go to LA to play the Rams. The Vikings finished the season 14-3. The Rams 10-7. They host because they won the NFC West. The Minnesota Vikings are giving 1.5 points on the road, so the Rams are home dogs. Wesley, what do you think about this game?
Well, the Rams beat the Vikings earlier this year in LA.
Yeah.
Back in October. And I think this matchup being this way, I think the way the Vikings lost last week is a big mental hit to them. I think that it's just natural to be like, well, what's this all for? Like if we've got to run into them again, and it ended up at the end not being that competitive of a game. Like you saw that Detroit was the better team in that game. And I think LA is going to come into this with a lot of a lot of confidence that they can win. They've been scoring some points. They lost last week, but they rested everybody that matters.
Yeah.
Their offensive players are going to come in ready to go, and I think that the Rams are going to put up points in this game. I think it's a fun matchup, but I do like the Rams to maybe pull off an upset here.
I've said this on the NFL Whip Around yesterday with Coach Kevin Smith, and I said I kind of crapped on the Vikings all year. Before the season started, people were asking me over under on their win total of 6.5. And I said, hammer the under, especially when JJ McCarthy got hurt. And I just didn't think Sam Darnold was worth anything. He turned out to be a pretty good player. They won 14 games. And I know the Rams are turning it on. They're playing their best football when it matters most. But I just can't discredit this Vikings team. I think that they've won 14 games for a reason, and mainly on their defense. This total is 46.5. I'm going to go out on a limb and say take the under. And I know that the Rams can move the ball, whether you're talking about their passing attack with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua. But at the same time, I just think Vikings, their defense is going to have to carry them to the divisional round if they get there. And so Brian Flores, there's people saying he could get a head coaching job. This is his opportunity to go. If he can go into LA and slow down Matthew Stafford and company and get the Vikings a win, and Kevin O'Connell can do a good job as he has all year with Sam Darnold. We did not see a very good Sam Darnold on Sunday Night Football in Week 18. They pressured him a ton, so you can expect the Rams to just blitz him a lot. They got to have a plan in place, but I'm going to take the Vikings here, actually. And I think they're going to cover the 1.5.
Yeah, the Vikings, 14-3. They lost 2 games to the Lions and 1 to the Rams in LA.
Yeah.
And I'm really basing a lot on, I know that Sam Darnold's had a big, comeback year, and he's looked great.
Sure.
He did look very bad last week.
Yeah.
And that is against Detroit's coached well. Aaron Glenn just did an incredible job with all of his second string defense out there. Basically, it was an incredible game by him. But we'll see what the Rams can put together. I think if they can, again, I cut this down. This one comes down to me is who's the better quarterback, and I think Matt Stafford's clearly the better quarterback.
Absolutely.
And when it comes down to this, I think he's gonna put that team over the top.
I agree with the quarterback assessment. I think that, you look at what the Lions did last week. They said, hey, we got a lot of backups, so let's just blitz the hell out of this guy. If the Vikings don't have a plan, a better plan than what they had in Detroit, then they don't deserve to move on to the next round, because clearly, this is going to be the MO to try and slow down that offense. And so we'll see. We'll see. You're taking the Rams. I'm taking the Vikings. So if we go back and look at our predictions, we both have we split on the Chargers Texans. Am I right? I took the Chargers. You took the Texans.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll see how that pans out. The
Ravens.
Ravens.
I took the Justin Herbert.
Okay, so we both took the Chargers, and we both think the Ravens are going to advance.
Yes.
So there you have the two.
I think everybody does.
Easy now. All right. So the two home teams winning there on Sunday. We have the Bills winning. We're splitting. So let's just look at the AFC, because those are the three AFC games. So that means that if the Bills win, then all the conference winners, or division winners, would advance. So that would mean that the Chiefs would host the Texans, and that the Ravens would go to the Bills in the divisional round.
We said the Texans are going to lose to the Chargers.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Chargers would go to the Chiefs then.
Yep.
And the Ravens would be traveling to Buffalo. That would be interesting. Interesting. Then on the NFC side, we did differ a little bit with the Packers and Eagles. We both agree the Commanders, and we split on the Vikings and Rams. So in terms of what could happen, you've got the Lions waiting to play the lowest seeded team. So that could be the Packers, could be the Commanders, or it could be the Vikings again, which would be interesting if the Vikings do win that game. So we will see how that goes, and we'll be back next week to talk about the divisional round. But in the meantime, Wesley, how do we find your New Orleans Saints coverage, which is not stopping and is also on social media? What are you doing there?
Yeah, we're going to hire a new coach.
Yes.
Hopefully fire all the coaches, hire all the
Derek
coaches.
Carr extension.
Hopefully
Derek Carr extension.
Cut Derek Carr, and we'll start doing mock drafts. We're already working on it. We got the 9th pick in the draft. But you can find us at Dome Patrol PCast on X. You can find me at WhoDatWesley13. Where can we find you, Jeff, and your Steelers coverage? Will y'all be doing stuff in the off season, or is there only one more week and then you're?
Yeah, we basically just shut down in the off season. We don't do anything. No, I'm just joking. I mean, it's 365 for us. And anywhere you get your podcast, search Steel Curtain Network. And you can find me on Twitter at jhartman, HARTMAN_PIT. That's it for this week's For Your Viewing Pleasure. We'll be back next week. Hey, enjoy the games, Wesley. We'll talk next week. Take it easy.
Thank you. See you next week.